This is the Strike Mash Boil podcast, presented by the Merrimack Valley Homebrew Club. This week we review what happened in Season 1, we announce our winning judged beer, and we respond to some comments. That and more, so stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to Strike Mash Boil. I'm Marco, president of Merrimack Valley Homebrew Club, and I'm joined by my co-host, Phil.
Hey, so this really is going to be the last show of Season 1. I mean, we're not really going to talk any brewing or anything. We're just going to chat about kind of what we did in Season 1, and we're going to kind of go through who had the best beer from all the judging segments we did. We're going to go through some comments we got, this is like mean tweets, man. This is going to be fun. We don't have that many, and they're not that good, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, Phil, you think people said bad things about us?
No, well, let's wait until I get to that point.
All right. That's fair.
And then we'll talk how many listens we had, how many listeners we had through 21 shows, and then we'll talk what we're going to do for Season 2. So, going back to the beginning, we started off, and I don't think we really had a super grand plan for the show. I mean, we had some ideas that we wanted to do these segments. We knew we wanted to talk about judging beers and trying to continue what we do in our homebrew club, which is the education aspect and to grow brewers.
Basically, where we wanted to curate the material was something that homebrewers would find entertaining. So it was a little bit of the functional talk, like talking about beers and talking about how to do things, but also the roundtable talk, like what are the things that we found that we were talking about as homebrewers that weren't necessarily about the act of brewing, things that were just interesting topics in the industry. And, if you look back at some of the shows that we did, you can see that we kind of cover the gamut. We didn't have a plan. We're all over the place a little bit. We did the Viking Luau episode, which is a big moment for us as a club. But we also did things like what to buy for Christmas. And we talked cider, and we, ranted about beer that we didn't think was beer or beer that doesn't taste like beer. And, we even played around with highlighting some classic styles like the bitters, and we did the Hefeweizen, and we talked to some pro brewers and home brewers gone pro brewers. So we really covered the gamut and, really tried to bring to the audience a bunch of different things that are relevant to home brewers or at least relevant to us. And, topics that you could learn something, but also maybe be a little entertained and maybe get a little frustrated with the two guys that you're listening to right now.
We definitely got on a roll there about the beers for people who don't like beers. We definitely heard some feedback from both folks in the club and outside the club that maybe we were being a little harsh and going a little over the top. But, that's us, and we're not going to hold back just because,
In fairness to that statement, the folks that are in the club also hear us talking about it a lot more often than the podcast folks, right?
That's probably true.
Will hear us talk about it in meetings and hear us talking about it on Facebook. And we have two Facebook pages. We have the public page where we may be a bit more conservative on the things that we post. Yeah. And we have a private page where we can be a little bit more open about how we truly feel about things. So maybe there was a little bit of fatigue as we were expressing ourselves internally.
But you know what? Back in January, February, even at Christmas, there was just this influx. Like every week, there was something new, and there were either people were having to cut the tops of cans off for the Jello beer or whatever the hell that was. The what was it? A cranberry sauce beer, or
that's brutal.
Beers blowing up, beers that not even getting out the door because lab is saying there's something screwy with it. People having beers that they post them on pictures online. We talked about that with Justin Agrati on the Swedish fish beer that just looked like egg drop soup, and just. So there was a lot going out in the greater social media world, and I think we were just reacting to it.
Which I think is relevant, right? I think that's exactly what folks are talking about now. I mean, we certainly encountered our fair share of folks that were the defenders of the style and the lovers of that style, and certainly didn't want anything to impact it. But that's not what we do here. What we do here is we speak our opinion, and we speak honestly and openly and transparently. And not everybody's going to like it. And you know what? That is totally okay.
Yeah.
And we will certainly throw out a mea culpa if we think we got something wrong, and you guys will let us know. And I think, we're going to do this whole mean tweets thing, and we'll address some of the comments that folks had about stuff. And I mean, honestly, I think what we wanted to do in season 1, I think we more or less did it. People got to know us a little bit. They got to know
Yeah.
the club a little. They got to meet members of the club. You got to know sort of some of our opinions on things going on in the beer industry. And I think as we look forward to the future, when we roll out season 2, hopefully we'll do more of that. And we'll have some more opportunities to piss listeners off.
Sure.
But we'll also have, hopefully, some opportunities to continue to educate and teach and share our perspective and our processes. And I think we're going to get a little bit more technical as we've learned things from season 1. We want to share some more technical stuff. We want to share some more style-based stuff and dive deeper into styles like we started to do towards the tail end of the podcast. So hopefully you'll get some of that too. But for those that have been listening, know that me personally have kind of a big opinion and can't usually control keeping his mouth shut. So there's going to be something that sets me off in the future, and it's just going to come right out. And that's my relationship with you guys listening, is you guys can always count on whatever's happening between the ears. There's no filter that stops it before it comes out. And I think that's what Phil and I really enjoy. We like the transparency and the honesty and the opinions, and we love the feedback too. So we appreciate when you guys hear something. If you don't like it, you tell us about it. Doesn't mean we're going to change it, but tell us about it.
And also join our Facebook group and get in on the conversation with us. And we've had an explosive, well, I don't know about explosive, but yeah, explosive growth of our Facebook group, the public one, since we got started on this podcast. It's grown, I would call it several dozen people at this point since December.
A good and bad, right? I mean, we had, thinking back to one of our episodes where we were talking about a particular brewery and a English bitter. I'm putting that in quotation marks. You guys can't see it, but an English bitter they put out there, and it looked like the one of the people that was running their fan page joined our group with the sole purpose of trolling us a little bit, which was totally fine. Yeah. And we welcome that sort of stuff. Like, bring it on if you want to talk about it. We're happy to defend our opinions, and we're happy to hear yours too. But
I think the funniest part about that troll event was that you, myself, Nick, we were all, and Tim was there. We were recording that book episode that night. Yeah. And so we were like shut off from the world for about an hour, and my phone started blowing up mid-show, and I had to flip it over so I wouldn't get distracted. We all got to the end of the show. We hit stop. We all looked at our phones and went, "What the F just happened?"
And at that point, the person had already been booted from our group, and it was like, damn it. Oh, like we didn't even get a chance to really get into it. But for the record, we don't normally boot people unless they're actually being inappropriate and offensive, and that was the case in this situation. So
majority of the people who have joined the club have been interactive with us and have been asking questions and providing feedback to other people's questions, and it's been really great to see a lot of new faces in that group.
Yeah, so I think it's fair at this point, Phil, for us, there's a couple of things that there's some stuff that we need to wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
We had promised at the beginning of this that we were going to track all of the beer scores for the judging segments, and that we would announce the winner, who won the best judged beer. So we still got to do that. I think we should talk a little bit about the things that you and I liked the most about the podcast, and things that we're hoping to do going forward. And then we got to get into the comments. We got to get into some of the comments that we had, so that we can just I can take it. I put on my big boy pants today. I hopefully I can handle it. My thick skinned big boy pants. I think I'll be okay.
All right, so let's talk judging. So I went through and I intended on keeping really great notes, and I never did. So I had to go back and listen to just about every single one. So tied in third place, we'll do a third, a second, and a first. Tied in third place with a score of a 33 was a spiced porter and the Belgian Triple. So the Belgian Triple was all the way back. I think it was maybe the second or third episode we did the Belgian Triple. Spiced porter was just a couple weeks ago. So that's tied for third. Second place with a 38, which for a while there I thought that was going to be the winner of the year or the season, was the Fest beer. That was a fantastic
that beer was so good. And it was Nick that was judging that beer, right? If I'm not mistaken.
So,
yeah. If I were a judge, I probably would have been over 40 on that one. I feel like he was knocking it a little bit, but that beer was awesome, and he gave it a 38, but that beer was incredible.
And I know a little bit of background on that Fest beer. That was brewed all the way back in March of last year. It lagered all summer long, all fall long. So it probably had about 9 months of lagering by the time it ever got to the show. So,
and I know that brewer was so happy with that style, and everybody in our club was so happy about it. He's brewing it now, and he's going to brew a ton of it. I think he's going to brew like 30 or 45 gallons of it. And do the same thing. I think I weaseled my way into getting a keg of it somehow. Like I found myself weaseling my way into getting kegs from people. I think I got myself one of those.
I weaseled my way into getting a keg of that one last year, and the reason it lagered for 9 months is it got lost in the back of my kegerator, which is saying a lot, and forgotten about from a certain point of view. So it was not my beer. I just happened to have a keg of it. So that beer was long since gone by the time we got to judging. So I'm glad that I lost that keg and refound it.
All right, so that's a lot of hype for beer number 2.
Yeah. And I agree. I think it should have been over a 40. All right, beer number 1 with a score of a 45 from Mr. Matt Savage was the Czech Amber Lager. And that one knocked it out of the park.
Oh, that beer was wonderful.
It was absolutely delicious.
And of course, again, so the way we have this design, before people give us shit because they know that we're crispy boys.
Right.
We are not the ones dictating the score here, right? We get BJCP judges with the score sheets. They're the ones that are able to taste the beer, compare it to the style guidelines, and give it a score. So not only did that score hit really high with our judge, it's also a beer that you and I really love too. So it works out perfect for us.
I don't have the comment in front of me, and I forget where it was, but somebody did comment about like, what, you guys aren't judging any IPAs? And I did reply back, we are listener supported on this judging stuff. If people don't send us IPAs, we can't judge them. And we got one IPA out of 20 shows or 21 shows that we did judging on. I can't help it. I mean, you want us to judge more IPAs, you got to send them to us.
So shameless plug, not a shameless plug, I guess. For those listening, when we hop into season 2, we're going to continue to do the judging. This is not something that's going away. If you're a home brewer and you want to see your milkshake IPA or your fruited sour or any other beer that you're brewing, we're happy to welcome it. We had lots of beers that were submitted by members of the club. We also had we had some beers that were submitted from not members, but folks outside the club. So we'll take anything. Just reach out to us and we'll coordinate it and we'll figure it out and we'll get the beer judged. So please do not think that we're curating the styles of beers to our taste. We are not. We will take anything and we'll judge it. And even if you think the beer is shit, because all right, so we talk about this before, but if you submit a beer to a competition and that you crack that beer open and the beer explodes, like we see so often in the commercial industry right now, beer explodes because it has an infection or something's going on. judges will still taste it. They have to still taste it. They have to provide feedback. And in order to do that, you have to taste it. So even if you think your beer is shit and you just want feedback on it, we will judge it. We'll put it on a show. We'll judge it. We'll give you feedback and you'll be able to hear about it.
And that happened on more than one occasion. Several of those beers that came in that were less than awesome beers were from brewers who are looking for feedback. And they weren't necessarily submitting the beers to our judging segments just to be like the best of the best of the best. They were submitting for that feedback. And I think they got what they were looking for, and they've already gone off and started reworking recipes. So
without further ado, congrats to the Czech Amber Lager brewer. We will reach out to you separately. We'll, as promised, get you a little something to congratulate you for winning our season 1 competition. So congrats. Hopefully you submit some more beers because that beer was awesome and we'd like to try more of them. So please keep Absolutely. It going and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
So Phil, the next thing is, for us to share a little bit about, we've already done a bunch of reflection on season 1.
Sure.
But anything that stood out to you as to, and I think let's just keep it positive. What do you think? What was your favorite thing about season 1?
I think the 2 brew requisite shows that we did, which the first one, which was all about the English bitters, wasn't called brew requisites yet. We made that up later. But those 2 shows where we could dig in with the commercial beers and the homebrew side by side, and that was a lot of fun. And having Erica and Matt on the show was a blast. And tasting all those beers side by side, talking through the styles and how to make those beers really great. Like Nick talked a lot in the Hefeweizen episode. Hefeweizens are easy to brew, but they're really difficult to master. And I think if you listen to that show, you got that from Marco, Nick, and myself. We brewed those beers. We did okay, but we got a lot of work to do if we ever wanted to submit those to a real competition and try and win a medal with one.
Yeah. So similarly for me was the New England IPA or the New England Pale Ale episode that we did. I really love to just geek out over beer. And when we're talking about the things that we do while brewing is like total geek out opportunity for us. So I really like the, pro brewer talk and industry talk. I love that stuff. I think it's really great. And also offers up the opportunity to geek out a little bit. But when we pick a style and we're talking about our process, we're talking about the ingredients that we use, we're talking about beginning to finish the nitty gritty details about what we do to make a great beer or what we think is a great beer, and pass it on to you guys so you guys can learn from either the mistakes that we made or the successes that we've had, and we're passing that on. That is a conversation that I really love to have. So we did that. And I know we're going to do a lot more of that because we really enjoyed that. And some of the feedback that we have gotten suggested that people liked to learn about the things that we do. So it was a great episode for me, and it seemed like folks really like it. So that was certainly a highlight for me when I look back at season 1.
Yeah, and that segment specifically, for a little bit of behind the curtain, that was supposed to be a 20-minute bit. We were just going to talk New England Pale Ales for 20 minutes, and it went on for an hour and 20. So clearly we geeked out and just rolled with it. But
we should have known better, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When do we ever get in a room talking beer and how to brew beer that we can just rifle through it? That doesn't happen.
But, going to what you said, that was an awesome conversation, but also that the 4 of us who were on that show, some things we all did almost identical. And then there were other things where we were all over the place with our process or ingredients or whatever it was. And I think we've all brewed really great New England Pale Ales. So hearing that there are multiple ways to skin the cat, if you will, I mean, that just goes to show that brewing, there is no really one set way.
Well, I mean, depending who you talk to, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's why we don't invite Nick to that episode.
Yeah, and I think what we like to do is, and what we've done is not tell you the one way to do something. When you listen to the New England Pale Ale episode, we're all in the same realm of how we do things, but there's minor differences. And what we do is we put out the info. This is what I do. Doesn't mean it's the best way, doesn't mean it's the only way, but this is what I do. And then for you guys that are listening that have either had struggles or want to improve on the beers that you're making, you listen to it and say, hey, I haven't thought of that before. Let me try it. And then you can figure out what works for you and what's improving your beer style. But yeah, I mean, I think that more of that stuff is going to be great. And certainly the feedback that we've gotten from folks is they love it. And sometimes it's a little bit redundant for you and I, because when we talk about these things at meetings, we're just having the same conversation sometimes. So you've heard us talk about this on the podcast, the benefit of homebrew clubs. And when you go to a homebrew club meeting and you're sitting there tasting people's beers, you're hearing this stuff, and folks are talking about it. We've just thought that our group is 40. We don't have, well, we're a little bit less than 40, but our max is 40 members. We don't plan on growing any more than that. And we thought that this was a good opportunity to engage with you folks that aren't in clubs, that might be interested in joining them or learning more about brewing.
Yeah. So I think going into season 2, some things that, I want to see are, more of these technical discussions like the New England Pale Ale. I'd like to have more, industry guests, but more like, I want to have the guys like Scott Janish on, or some of the book authors, right? Some of these guys who go deep diving into little things. And so I just called out Scott. These guys that, I go to their blogs or to their books frequently, and I'm looking at their info. And these are folks that we all in the club are frequently referencing. So I hope to get some of those guys onto the show on season 2 and pick their brain a little bit, and maybe not necessarily about the things that they do publish frequently, maybe about some of those little side things that interest us.
I totally agree. Like I think that as we can dive further into the world of industry professionals and hear some of the things that they've done, because in a lot of examples, some of these guys that are really highly acclaimed started where we are, or where we started. They're folks that learned through the same trials that we're learning through now. I think of like John Palmer and Water, and how, like, I'm actually a little apprehensive of how great of a guest he would be on a podcast, because he could really geek out. Like, you have to be a hardcore brewer to really want to listen to the stuff that he's talking about. But that dude is brilliant. I mean, he is so brilliant, and I've attended his sessions at HomebrewCon and could listen to him speak about it. And the information he's talking about can be tough to digest, but the man knows what the hell he's talking about and relates to everything that we've dealt with as homebrewers. So I'd love to chat with more folks about that. But I'd also like to talk to folks that provide a little bit more color in the industry too. Maybe people that don't necessarily have a vested interest. I really, really enjoyed the episode that we did with Brew Roots. Those folks don't have a dog in the fight. Right. And what I love about that is they have an opinion, and they aren't reserved on the opinion because they're working in the industry. So I'd love to see us do more things with, folks that are on the opinion side and the critical side of beer and the beer industry, so that we can share either similarities in our viewpoints or oppositions of our viewpoints, but just create more robust conversation about some of the things that are happening in the industry with folks that are more opinion focused versus, that conservative viewpoint. Because, and totally makes sense. Like, I'm not knocking it. If I was working in the beer industry today, I probably would be a bit more conservative because, you don't want to ruffle any feathers. But I'd love to do some more stuff with folks that are in the opinion side of things.
So I do want to, I know you don't want to go negative, but was there any one thing that maybe didn't work for you in season 1?
Yeah. I mean, I would say certainly early on, we are rookies when it comes to doing a podcast, without a doubt. So when we first rolled this out, there was certainly some challenges in how comfortable we were doing this. And I think we've come a long way in getting ourselves more comfortable. But the thing that I think stood out the most was just show format.
Mm-hmm.
Folks may or may not have caught on to this. When we first started, we literally started with the judging, then we went into rant, then we went into something else. So we're still playing with format a little bit, and I think that's something that is a bit of a sore point for us on the show, because anybody who's listened to all 21 of our episodes to this point sees that there's slight adjustments to format all the time. We're not totally consistent. We haven't quite figured it out yet. And that's the one thing that I'd say that oftentimes when I listen, because I listen to every episode, obviously, that stands out to me to say, like, man, sometimes we're just not consistent.
Yeah. And I think going on that same bandwagon, we kind of set ourselves into a format, and we really want to lock ourselves into like about a 1 hour show. And originally, I think we were planning on something like 45 minutes, and that went out the window pretty quick. But when we started having some of these conversations with Brett and Justin and PJ, and even the Viking Luau one with Switzer at the very beginning, those conversations ran, up into an hour or more. And so we have all this other content we wanted to get to as well. So what we did was we were splitting those across multiple shows, and I don't think that works as well as I maybe had hoped at the beginning. Like the little cliffhangers and all that is great, and pick up next time, whatever. I think it works great for television, but maybe not necessarily for a podcast. So I think when we start doing season 2, we'll probably switch that up and not necessarily split up interviews like that like we have in season 1.
Yeah, that's a good call. I mean, certainly towards the end, it sorry to get really obvious. The 3-part one was, I think, the tough one that won't go a little hard. All right, cool. I mean, and I think essentially based on this conversation, you guys have heard some of the things that we're hoping to do for season 2. But to quickly recap it, what we really think is going to be important for us as we move forward is to do more deep dive process conversation on styles of beer, more of those brew requisites, some of the types of guests that we talked about, a little bit more consistency in format. So those are the things that we're really focused on for season 2. But I think it's important to note that we don't have all the answers. And ultimately, the folks that are going to really influence how this show develops is you guys, our listeners. So we invite you to take the time to provide us with some feedback, and that's what we're going to do next, is hear some of the feedback that we have gotten, but to really take the time to reach out to us and tell us the things that you liked or the things that you didn't like or what you'd like to see more of. And we've got a few different ways that you can do that. You can join our Facebook page and provide us feedback. That's Merrimack Valley Homebrew on Facebook. We have the @MVHBC page on Instagram. We have the @Strike Mash Boil page on Instagram. But you can also shoot me an email. And I say shoot me an email because I'm literally the one that will get the email. Happy to hear what you guys think, and shooting me an email at president@mvhbc.com. I may regret telling everybody the email, but please, because who knows the things that people will say. I'm accustomed, I guess, at this point to getting the colorful emails, but feel free to shoot me an email and tell me what you think about the show and things that you'd like to see or things that you like that you want us to continue to do. But please don't be shy and don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Yeah, for sure. And we also have a email straight for the podcast as well, which is strikemashboil@mvhbc.com.
Oh, that's the one I should have gave. I should have gave that one.
Yeah.
Phil, damn it.
Yeah. Spam my inbox instead of yours. But yeah, you can get us at any of those. And then of course, across our social channels. And so let's talk maybe a little statistics, because this is kind of fun. So we did 21 shows. This is 22nd. We had 4,400 listeners across the whole season, which is far and wide way beyond anything I expected. So to the listeners out there, thank you for listening to the show. That was crazy when I looked that up today. I do track a little bit of it, but the other one that is just crazy, that's really, really cool, is where in the world everybody is. They're not just from here in New England and Massachusetts, where we're from, or even just the United States. We had listeners from Canada, England, Ireland, Norway, Sweden, Poland, Czech Republic, Austria, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, France, Australia, India. All right, this one's crazy. Pakistan, South Africa, Brazil, New Zealand. So we had listeners from all over the world. Granted, some of these might be VPNs that some people are using.
No, knock that off immediately.
All
No, that's
right.
not true. They are literally sitting in those countries listening to our website. So for you that are listening, when you're making the recommendation of to people to listen to our podcast, you can say, hey, I listened to this internationally listened to podcast called Strike Mash Boil. We'd appreciate if you just did that and ignored that VPN nonsense that Phil was just talking about.
Right. Which most people, I think, listen to the podcasts on their phone and not on their computer. And I don't know that many people who have VPNs on their phones. But, we didn't really go out of our way to reach out to people in other countries. Like, this was just it just happened. So that's just wild. So to all of you all over the world, thank you for listening to the show. And we're going to, as we keep mentioning, season 2 is coming. So thank you for listening, and we'll keep it up going forward. So 4,400 listens from all over the world, which is wild. And then I think from there we go to some comments, right?
Yes. I mean, this is what people really care about is the comments. Now, I will say we've had 4,400 listens around the world, an international podcast, and we only had 5 or 6 comments, something like that. But if you are feeling something about the podcast, don't shy away from it. I mean, the comments are all over the map. The ratings are all over the map. This is not a business venture for us. This is literally fun. So if you give us a shitty rating, you're not hurting us. If you give us a great rating, you're not doing anything great for us. This is all just for fun. So, but we want to hear what you guys think, and we don't mind a little bit of criticism. So ramp up the comments. But we thought that this would be a good opportunity for us to read those comments and maybe address them if we feel necessary.
Sure. So let's start with Deckerhad, who posted on,
which is a great name. I just whoever you are, it's a great name.
Yeah. So he's over on this was Apple Podcasts. I like how this podcast is very knowledgeable and informative. They explain things in a simple way that you understand and not make you feel like an idiot if you don't know. I wouldn't say it's family friendly at times, but nonetheless, very informative, very well done, and keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Literally, so this person is literally referring to how often Phil swears on the show.
Yeah.
It's not me at all, because obviously you guys know that I never fucking swear. But yeah, I mean, again, the whole point of our podcast is the talk that you would likely hear at a meeting or in a brewery. And sometimes it gets a little colorful. But Decker had awesome name.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say something else that it's not, but I love that name. We appreciate the feedback. Keep it coming.
All right. Over on Instagram, we got a comment on one of our episode 9 post from Core Brew 89. So this was episode 9 was beer for people who don't like the taste of beer. And then Joe was also on that show. We talked through lactose. So Core Brew 89, I agree with Joe. I love brewing with different adjuncts, but not to the point where it no longer tastes like beer. These beers that look and taste like fruit smoothies are offensive. There shouldn't be any pulp in a beer glass. Good segment. I enjoyed listening.
I would say nailed it. Perfect. Yep. Thank you. That is how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
We've said it a bunch of times that we absolutely think that adjuncts in beers are okay. There may be a comment coming up that suggests otherwise, but we think that adjuncts in beers are okay. It's all about adjuncts complementing beer and not beer complementing adjuncts.
Exactly. Then we got from JVH4, great podcast, great balance of homebrew education and fun beer talk. Can't wait to hear more. Then we had, this was a good one. This was all the way back in January. So this is from Pez. Beer boys with thick knowledge. These boys know what they're talking about. Bought my hubby a gift based on their Rex.
Pez, glad we can help you out. You have some other comments, I believe, on here. I'm staring at one that also says Pez on it. I believe it's the same person.
I think so. Yeah.
We started off strong, and we're glad you like that Christmas episode. We hope to do an episode where we're not necessarily recommending things to buy, but we're recommending things to stay away from. So that'll be something to look for in the future.
Yeah. So you kind of called it on Pez. There's a second one, but you know what? I'm going to go to a different one first. We're going to save the Pez one for last.
Okay.
So Bob Does Beer Things on Instagram, which, by the way, he's a great follow on Instagram. So give him a follow. Marco also told us he likes, quote, beer flavored beer, quote, while gushing over an ass-puckering fruit-infused beverage. He hates lactose, but uses it in his cream ale. He doesn't like experimental beer, but brews hazies regularly, and that he is the strongest man in the world. That's one enigmatic crispy boy. Haha. Man, does he listen to the show or what? Those are some details.
Oh, Bob Does Beer Things. You sound like a brilliant man that knows exactly what he's talking about. But a couple of things there that I just want to make sure I'm able to address. Number one, I'm not the self-proclaimed strongest man in the world. This is what my wife and my kids tell me. I accept the title, but I'm not self-proclaimed. So let me just get that one out of the way right away. But a couple of things like beer-flavored beer. There are ass-puckering fruited beers, fruit-infused beers that taste like beer. We talk about this.
Those are from these are styles from Belgium.
That's exist. Right. Things like Creek, Framboise. These are beers that are ass puckering, that are fruit infused,
and not the ones you get. There are some that you get in the bottle at every grocery store that basically taste like a alcoholic syrup.
Yeah, everybody that has listened to the episodes knows that my favorite beer styles are from Belgium. So I do love those beer styles, but they are in fact beer styles that take years to make. They are not fruited milkshake. I just saw some green thing that was posted on our Facebook page recently that was just an abomination. So they are not those. So that's where I start to have issues. And yes, guys, a cream ale. Listen, I admit I fucked up. All right, I admit it. I'm gonna be the first one to tell you. But it's called a fucking cream ale. A milk stout is called a milk stout because it has lactose in it. I thought a cream ale was called a cream ale because it had lactose in it. So I added a teeny amount of fucking lactose to a cream ale thinking that was a thing. I get it. But I'm not a proponent of a beer that tastes like lactose. The tiny amount of lactose that I added to a cream ale to add some body and character to it is not the same. I think adding lactose to beers is totally fine. It's not. My problem is when the beer has so much goddamn lactose in it that you're going to have, you're going to have to spend some time in the bathroom because of your bowel issues afterwards. I don't think hazies are experimental beers anymore, right? Like that thing is gone. So. That's gone. Yes. Brewing a New England IPA is not experimental anyway.
Yeah, I would say that if it is an experimental beer, then the 900 hazies on the shelf at the local packy are all experimentals, which they're not.
But at the end of the day, Bob Does Beer Things. I appreciate you. All right. I do. I appreciate you. You came out swinging. You said exactly how you felt. I appreciate it. Keep it coming, buddy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Bob Does Beer Things. Thank you, man. And now this one I think is my favorite so far. So this one is again from Pez. Beer boomers with hazy opinions. That's the title. These boys clearly love cask ale and most things British. You dislike hazy IPAs. We get it. Let's hear you talk about other things.
I find this a comment to be really offensive. No, really quick. What's a beer boomer? Like, I mean,
I don't
God, are we
know.
that fucking old? Like,
I
I
don't know.
think we're
Well,
millennials
yeah,
technically.
we are.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, we are. Nick isn't, but yeah.
Poor guy's not even here to defend himself. How many episodes did we talk about Cask Ale?
We
Two,
ta-
maybe it carried over
we
into a second
talked
one.
like 20 minutes on a cask ale on one show, and then we did the bitters, and that was probably about it.
I mean, so clearly we love Cask Ale. 21 episodes. We talked about it on 2 of them. Clearly we love Cask Ale. Pez, listen, we're not knocking your comment. It's what you felt when you were listening to the show.
Right.
We may not agree with you. To clarify, again, Phil, I won't speak for you. People know I like hazy IPAs. I like hazy New England IPAs. That is the definition of a New England IPA, is it's hazy. Let me be clear. I'm not a fan of fruited milkshake IPAs. That is where it goes over the line for me. The beers that threaten to, explode a finger or two off my hand when I'm holding the can, those are the ones that I'm all set with. It doesn't mean that I haven't tried them, that I haven't drank them. Doesn't mean that I haven't even liked the taste of one of them. But I certainly do like hazy IPAs. I like New England IPAs.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of hazy IPAs. I have my own rotating IPA series. You guys have heard me on the show talk about it, Clusterficken. I think I'm up to batch 24 or something now. And yes, I do love cask ale, and I do love British beers. I think we did try and talk about other things, though, didn't we? 3 segments a show times 21 shows. I think we, yeah. Anyway, but Pez, thank you. That really made us laugh. So we appreciate it.
And for the record, my most recent New England IPA was I brewed one of my series of New England IPAs is called On a Whim, because normally when I'm brewing them, I'm just using things that I don't plan them that well. But my brother gave me 20 gallons of maple sap. I decided to replace water with maple sap and try one out, and it came out pretty good. I brought it out to the meeting for you guys to try it out, and it was a pretty solid one. But Pez, you've made 2 comments, so out of the ones we heard, you are our top commenter. We don't want you to stop commenting. We want you to keep bringing it, good or bad. We'll take it. We'll certainly at the end of season 2 respond once again how we are interpreting it, and if we've got it wrong, let us know. But we do appreciate the comment, and we hope you keep doing it.
Or what does it say that I love cask ale, but I dislike hazy IPAs, but my most recent hazy IPA ended up in a cask on my beer engine.
A true story. You did that the New England English IPA, whatever the fuck
It was some kind of hybrid. Yeah. It worked. It was pretty good.
I actually haven't had it on cask yet. I was hoping the beer engine was going to show up at our most recent meeting, but it did not.
No, but it will be at Big Brew Day, and I've been saving some for y'all, so that will be there.
I'm doing my fist pumps that people can't see, but I'm fist pumping right now.
So that was all the feedback we had. Again, it wasn't a ton, but
well, I think the moral of the story is we're really excited and happy with the results of season 1. Phil and I had said to ourselves, which is the reason why we did a season, was we wanted to get to 20 episodes and then really evaluate how we thought things were going. I think it's safe to say that, listen, we're not a top podcast anywhere, but what is important about this is that we're having fun, and we think that it's a valuable use of our time. And I'd say that after, now 22 episodes, this is a good time. We enjoy it. We're able to fit it into our schedules and make a contribution beyond our club. I think we're going to keep doing it. So we appreciate the folks that have listened. 4,400 listens is awesome. We're hoping that we're going to continue to take the feedback that you guys get, continue to curate and modify and adjust. And hopefully season 2 is going to be even better than season 1. But and that season 3 will be better than season 2, and season 4 over season 3. So we think that we've learned a ton. We've had a lot of fun. We hope to keep doing it. And what's going to really make the difference for us is going to be the feedback that we get from you guys. So keep it coming, good and bad. Nobody wants their ass kissed here. And our skin is real thick, so we can handle it.
Oh, yeah.
Bring it on. I'm not, for somebody who's not afraid to share his opinions, he cannot afford to have thin skin. So bring it on, folks.
Yeah, so season 2, we're not sure when it's going to get started, but I think we mentioned at the beginning of the Prerequisite show last week that we are going to have some little tidbits come out through our course of our little break. So some little, probably 5-10 minute bits just to keep you guys in the loop on what we're up to. And then, season 2 is going to drop sometime this summer. And more stuff coming, more how to brews, more equipment discussions, more brew requisites, more guests, more process ingredients. We're going to have Mr. Lactose back. Switzer's working on something I think he called a long cold Switzer. I guess that's probably about lagers, so that's going to be kind of fun. So a lot more coming in season 2.
Yeah, so thanks again, guys. We look forward to spending more time with you. We'll see you. Well, I guess we won't see you, but you'll hear us, something like that. But we'll catch you guys up in a couple of months.
Talk to you next time on Strike, Mash, Boil. The Strike, Mash, Boil podcast is produced by the Merrimack Valley Homebrew Club, an AHA-sanctioned club. Follow us on Instagram at Strike, Mash, Boil. Join the conversation in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/MVHBC, or send us some feedback at strikemashboil@mvhbc.com. What we do in our homebrew club, which is the education aspect and to grow brewers. I'm tossing it to you because I've run out of things to say.